Welcome to this episode of the Aquarist's Edge, a podcast for home aquarists just like you. Learn more about how to keep a thriving aquarium and discover ideas and tips to give your aquarium the edge. And now, over to our host, Arthur Preston.
Welcome back to the Aquarist's Edge. Today we're going to unpack one of the most important foundations of guppy care, setting up the perfect guppy tank. Guppies, scientifically known as Puccilia reticulata, are often called the million fish because of their incredible breeding capacity. They're also called beginner fish, but in reality, they teach us some of the most essential lessons about water chemistry, tank design, and stability. And in actual fact, I don't think they are beginner fish at all. But like people who say goldfish are starter fish, I wouldn't start with those either. And today we're going to take a look at 4 cornerstones of keeping guppies. We're going to look at tank size, temperature, pH, and water hardness. We're going to look at some of these issues, talk about some practical steps that you can apply right away in your guppy tank. And remember, it's really good to hear from you, so if you're listening to this on YouTube, please drop a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel as well. If you're listening on your podcast app, please go ahead and leave a review, but also if you can, if the app allows you to, leave a comment and let us know what challenges you've experienced with guppies and how you've solved them. So let's get into this, and let's start by speaking about tank size. This really is the foundation of stability. Tank size is where everything begins. Many newcomers to the hobby buy guppies because they're small, they're really colourful, and they're sold in pet shops as easy fish. Unfortunately, they're often sold together with tiny tanks, or worse, a lot worse, bowls with no filter. We need to think of water as a chemical buffer. Larger bodies of water resist sudden changes. A 10-litre tank can swing in temperature by 3 degrees an hour if placed near a sunny window. A 100-litre tank, on the other hand, barely shifts. The same goes for toxins in the water. 1 milliliter of uneaten food can mess up a 10-litre tank overnight, but will barely register in a 60-litre one. So let's remember this: more water equals more resilience to mistakes. And let's be real about this, even experienced aquarists make mistakes. I've certainly made many in the hobby over the years. So what then are the practical guidelines? Well, I would say that you don't want to start with anything smaller than 40 litres for a small guppy colony. The recommended size would be 60 to 80 litres for breeding or for planted setups. In terms of the design of the tank, go rectangular because long tanks offer surface area for oxygen exchange. Bowls and tall tanks don't. And remember that guppies love to swim a lot. They're active. So you need to leave swimming space. You want to plant the back and the sides of the tank, but keep the center part open. Also bear in mind that guppies can jump. And sometimes, particularly the males, if they get startled for some reason or other, they can often jump out of the tank. I've lost a few fish that way myself. Some of the issues around tank sizes, you want to make sure that you don't create ammonia spikes by overcrowding. If you have too many fish in the tank, upgrade your tank or rehome the fish. In the interim, you could always add an additional filter, just as a stopgap measure. The other thing that can happen is that guppies can chase one another constantly in the tank. This often happens when there are too few hiding spaces, the guppies become stressed. So your solution to this is to add live plants or Décor to break the sight lines in your tank. But what then about temperature? Let's remember that guppies are tropical fish, originally from Venezuela, Barbados, and Trinidad. In the wild, they experience consistent warmth, often in the mid-20 degrees Celsius. 22 to 26 degrees Celsius is optimal. That will give you active behavior in your fish, vibrant colors, and steady breeding. 18 to 20 degrees Celsius is really too cold. The guppies will become sluggish, they can stop eating, and they actually become more prone to fin rot and ick. If, on the other hand, the water is too warm, 27 degrees and up, the metabolism will race and the oxygen level will fall, and you actually shorten the lifespan of your guppy that way. Studies have actually found that guppies kept at 22 degrees Celsius often live several months longer than those kept at 27 degrees Celsius, although their breeding will slow slightly. In terms of the practicality of heating, aim for about 1 watt per litre, so a 6-litre tank would need a 60 watt heater. Don't forget to check your temperature of your tank with a thermometer. Sometimes submerged heaters can be off by 2 or 3 degrees. Also make sure you have a backup plan. Have a spare heater. Heaters can fail, and failures by Murphy's Law will often happen in winter or on a Sunday night. A little tip here, if you want to accelerate your breeding, you can raise the temperature slightly. And if you want to produce hardier fish through breeding, you can slow the breeding down by taking the water down to about 22 degrees. Let's pause for a moment and demystify pH. This is simply the measure of hydrogen ions in the water. It's basically acidity versus alkalinity. Why this matters for guppies is that guppies evolved in alkaline streams that are rich in minerals. So the ideal range for your guppies is between 7 and 8. Below 6.8, guppies experience stress. They can weaken and they often fall sick. Above 8.2, it's not lethal for them, but this can stress the fry and it can disrupt the beneficial bacteria. There's an aquarium scientist by the name of Ines Schirman who authored a book called Aquarium Fish Breeding, and she noted, as we've said many times on this podcast as well, is that stability is more important than precision. Guppies at a stable 7.2 thrive better than guppies that swing daily between 6.9 and 7.5. So test your water weekly, raise your pH naturally through crushed coral or limestone rock, avoid chemicals because these can cause sudden swings, and buffer with KH, that's low carbonate hardness, because low carbonate hardness can lead to unstable pH, so you want to keep your KH above 4. Also bear in mind that pH can crash after water changes, which is likely due to a low KH. Just add the crushed coral to the filter and allow the pH to raise itself naturally. If your guppies are constantly fading in color, that could be from chronic stress due to acidic water. Again, test your water and adjust gradually. What about water hardness? This is about minerals, and it's something that's often overlooked, but for guppies, it's just as vital as temperature. The science behind this is as follows. The hardness of your water is essentially your dissolved calcium and magnesium. Your general hardness, or GH, can affect the fish's physiology. The carbonate hardness, as previously mentioned, affects buffering and the stability of pH. And the ideal general hardness for guppies is between 8 and 12. Now, hard water improves skeletal strength, muscle contraction, and the survival of baby fry. And soft water can lead to bent spines, weak fry, and reduced fertility. So some practical tips here are to test your KH and your GH. Many beginners only look at pH, but take a moment and check the others as well. If your water is too soft, add crushed coral or limestone, or use a commercial remineralizer. If the water is too hard, mix in some RO or reverse osmosis water with tap water, and keep fish that thrive in hardness alongside guppies. Now, plants and decor aren't just for looks. They can also directly impact the survival of your guppies. Plants help by absorbing nitrates, by providing hiding places for the newborn fry or the very small fry, and they can boost oxygen. Practical plants in your guppy tank would include Java moss, hornwort, and water sprite, which is a floating cover. Bear in mind that you want to have smooth rocks, not sharp ones, because guppy tails can snag very easily, and to avoid strong currents when you have males with large tails, because they will struggle with that. So the perfect guppy tank essentially comes down to stability. You want to have at least 40 liters. You want to have your temperature between 22 and 26 degrees Celsius, your pH between 7 and 8, and your hardness between 8 and 12. You're going to add plants, test your water regularly, and if you do this, you will be rewarded with healthy and vibrant guppies. I hope that has been helpful to those of you who are guppy fans. I personally love breeding guppies. It's wonderful to see some really incredibly vibrant and exciting strains coming to us from various imports. There's a lot going for these guppies. Remember, guppies are not necessarily beginner fish. So if you're wanting to breed, please take a look at our guppy playlist. On this podcast, there are several videos there that are going to be helpful to you, and hopefully you can learn something from them. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe, share the episode, leave a review, and until next time, keep learning, keep discovering, and keep enjoying this amazing hobby. Bye for now.
That's it for this episode of the Aquarius Edge. Please consider subscribing to this podcast so that you don't miss further episodes. We would love it if you would also rate and review the podcast, as this helps make it visible to others. Until next time, keep learning and discovering, and keep finding your Aquarius Edge in this captivating and fascinating hobby.